and we'll get into the match preview. A team that we've got quite a bit of success with against in the last couple of years. You know, beating them already twice this season with two really good performances: 4-0 at the Etihad, 2-1 in the Cup in October against. Which was two really good displays. You know, we just seem to play really well whenever we come up against them.
And on both those occasions as well, we saw a bit of a different side to Spurs, in a sense that in both those games, it wasn't just we dominated possession and we were just gung-ho. Like, we very much defended properly in both those games. Yeah. We sat back a bit. We made sure we got players behind the ball plugging the gaps, and Man City found it really hard to break through. I think obviously the game of the Etihad, they probably had a few more chances than the game in the Carabao, especially early on. I remember they opened us up a bit, and Haaland missed a couple of chances. But I think the game in the Carabao, we did nullify them quite well. And that was obviously, they didn't have their first choice attack out there, but we just still nullified them quite well, and that was quite an impressive defensive display. I think in both those games, I think it was Dragoshin and Davis, I think, because I think the game in the Carabao, Romero got injured early, Van de Ven got injured early in that game, so it ended up being Davis and Dragoshin for a lot of it. In the game in the Etihad, it was Davis and Dragoshin at the back. So, I mean, this one's going to be another new pairing. It's going to be Danso and Gray.
In the 2-0... Oh, no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong game. Go on.
Yeah, I'm saying this game is going to be another new pairing, Danso and Gray. Yeah. So they're going to have to be very much on it. Against Man City...
Danso will be vitally important, though, in this game. I think he's going to be such a pivotal player for us.
100%. I think his ability to just clear things away when crosses are coming in the box. Against Man City, whatever you want to say about them, you always have to be on point defensively, even in this run of games, because they just have that capability of opening you up and causing you problems. And I think all the games that they've lost, they've always come up against teams who are very good, are very disciplined, and very good and quite good defensively. And that has been their undoing. And we know that right now they're in a period where if you are very solid against them, you can catch them out. They're not in the same phase defensively. I think Gonzalez has helped, but he hasn't completely solved the problem just yet. And at the back, I think their defenders, you know, they're struggling. Stones has gone off injured. Akanji's out injured as well at the moment. Rico Lewis maybe isn't in the same form he was maybe in our previous seasons. Gavardio defensively isn't at the same level at the moment, and they're being exposed a bit more because I feel like the midfield isn't as energetic without Rodri and as disciplined. I think, again, I've said Gonzalez has helped in that, and it will make it harder than it would have been without him. But still, they're not the same level they were when obviously Rodri was there. So I think a lot of it is overpowering them at midfield, making sure you're overrunning them and making sure that you're making it difficult for them to basically play through the middle. Because if we can stop them getting it as out wide as directly as they have been, then I think there will be chances for us to directly attack them, and we can be quite a devastating team when we go direct. So that's what I think the plan will be. But if we allow them too much domination in the middle, if they can kind of get back to those levels we've seen, even though they obviously beat Newcastle 4-0, so they're still capable of big performances and big results. If we allow Gonzalez to dominate in that midfield, then all of a sudden you might see Savinho and Doku getting a lot more opportunities, and I think that could cause us a lot more problems.
Yeah, and that 4-0 game against Newcastle was actually Nico Gonzalez's only start in the Premier League. So I think it's a good barometer to go on, because in that game they looked brilliant.
Didn't they start at Anfield?
Anfield, no. Sorry.
Not Anfield, against at home, sorry. At home.
Liverpool. Yeah, no, he did. No, you're right. So he's had two starts in the Premier League, once against Newcastle, once against Liverpool. But I feel like that Newcastle game's probably a bigger barometer than the Liverpool game, just because Liverpool are the best team in Europe, the best team in the Premier League. The game before that was away at Real Madrid, and you know you can get sucked in against Real Madrid with Rodri on the pitch, never mind with Nico Gonzalez on the pitch. So I'm looking at that Newcastle game, and I am worried coming into this game, because against Liverpool and against Real Madrid, you're talking about two of the best teams in Europe. They're coming up against the Tottenham side, who are mid-table right now.
Yeah.
They played against a Newcastle side who have been better than Tottenham all season, and they absolutely smashed them off the park. So I am fairly worried coming into this game, and I feel like the Man City will look at this game as a game for them to get back on form.
Definitely, and I actually didn't think they were that bad in certain moments against Liverpool. I just think Liverpool really exploited their biggest weaknesses and made sure they defended properly. But I thought there were points where Man City were doing some good things there, but Liverpool were just too good for them on the day.
The thing as well that they had in the Newcastle game, which I don't think they're going to have here, I don't know if Haaland's going to make it. But if he does, that kind of dual threat of Haaland and Mamouche is a scary thought to come up against, particularly when you don't have your first choice backline. And if it is one of them, I don't think it will be as a scary prospect because you know where to focus your attentions. But in that game, when Newcastle played Man City, Haaland kept drifting off. He kept like dragging the Newcastle defence with him, which left all sorts of space for Mamouche, and he ended up getting a hat-trick in the first half.
But look at that, they've lost 3 of their last 5 away games, Man City. Obviously 2 of them against Liverpool and Real Madrid. But not in the best away form. But then again, we're not in the best. Well, we've won 3 of our last 5 home games, so maybe our home form is starting to turn a bit, but still not amazing just yet. Defensively, we're in a little bit of better form than them. 7 goals in the last 5 compared to 9, so they've shipped quite a few. But offensively,
they conceded 5 to Arsenal, didn't they?
5-1 to Arsenal, yeah. Well, we conceded 4 to Liverpool, which obviously probably I think it's in that stat. So I think in terms of form, we're fairly evenly matched in terms of form, but obviously quality-wise, they're still ahead of us. But I think dropping out the Champions League, I wonder what kind of psychological effect that's going to have on them, because over the last 4 years, when they're in this kind of moment, that mentality to just keep winning games, to keep ahead of the opposition in the title race, was such a key factor, I think, to how they just kept going on these runs. But now it's a different kettle of fish.
Implode.
I'm not saying going to implode. I'm just saying I wonder. I do wonder what kind of hit that's going to take to them psychologically, because I think there have been in the past 3 years. I think it's been, as much as anything, it's been mentality that's got them through it. Just dragging themselves to these wins, making sure that they're getting over the line in every game. But I think, especially there's like the older guys like Diaz and Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, a lot of these guys who are obviously getting on a bit, and they've been eking every ounce of themselves to drag themselves to titles. But are they going to be able to do that just to drag themselves to a top 4? And that's kind of what I wonder about this team right now. I think they're definitely in a massive dogfight for top 4. I really think that. I think they've done really well to reinforce the squad in January, and that's really going to help them in this fight. And that probably will be enough to make sure they get there. But I also think that I don't think they've got out of their problems just yet. That's what I feel, and I feel they're still going to have a few problems between now and the end of the season where they have some bad defeats, and I still think they're going to be in a real fight for top 4. I don't think they're going to breeze it. I think it's going to be a close call. I think there will be some weeks they drop out of it. I think by the end of it they'll probably be in it, but I think I don't think they're going to be like back to the City that's winning every game, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like the tide was turning, wasn't it, after that Newcastle game? Everyone was like, oh, Man City look like they're back to their best. Nico Gonzalez, Pep was calling him the new Rodri and stuff after
Mini
the game.
Rodri.
Mini Rodri and all that kind of stuff. And it felt like the tide was turning. But I guess, like, for them, it was just unfortunate they had to come up against, like, the 2 best teams in Europe.
I think the tide has turned in a sense that before January, they were losing an obscene amount of games. And that is, that they can't be in that situation anymore. And I don't think there will be. And so I do think from that point of view, the tide has definitely turned because they're starting to win games again and they're starting to look a lot more like themselves. But I still think they're not quite there yet, is my point. And I think it's going to be interesting how they do from now to the end of the season. But I think they should be okay. They should be in the top 5 at least, which is Champions League. But being out of the Champions League as well, being out of the title race, they're not used to not fighting for those big things. So it's a different kind of mentality they're going to need from now to the end of the season, I feel.
Yeah, and I think they'll still have it in abundance. I think they'll be on good form from now to the end of the season, in my opinion. But the reality is that Man City don't win at Tottenham unless we say they can win.
Exactly, unless we allow them to win. And that's a big thing. And last year, we allowed them to win because we were playing well. We're like, you know what? We showed we can beat you, but here's the win. That's what it was like last year.
Exactly. Sonny going through one-on-one with Ortega. in the final minutes of what was it, 10 minutes to go or something.
Yeah.
And Sonny was like, nah, we're not giving Arsenal the title.
No chance. But this, look, we want to win this one. And it's a weird one. If we win, I think there's in terms of like catching up to the pack in front of us, this could be a big win if we win this, because obviously we would naturally close points on City. And also Bournemouth are playing Brighton, who both teams are above us. Villa away at Palace, not an easy game. Chelsea are probably going to win, but Newcastle away at Liverpool as well. So if we win, I think the table could look quite interesting if we do win this game.
If we win, we go 8 points behind City or something?
8 points behind City, yeah. But I'm saying there could also be 8 points behind Newcastle as well, because they might lose to Liverpool. Bournemouth play Brighton, so we can close points on both of them.
Saying if we win, the march for Europe is on.
I'm just saying if we do want to march for it, we'll probably have to win. Is my point.
Yeah, we have to go on a consistent run, though.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying, but it starts with winning this game. I'm saying one game at a time. I'm saying if we want any chance of getting European football, it would have to start here. I mean, it would have started 3 games ago with those wins, but we have to just keep winning, and we have to prove our credentials by winning this game for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's done if we're back in it if we win, but I'm saying the only way we get back in it is to win this game.
Yeah, and I think you'll learn a lot about Ange Postecoglou. I think you'll learn a lot about this Tottenham side over the next 4 or 5 games, because there's very difficult games coming up. Man City, Bournemouth, Fulham, Chelsea, all 4 games where on any given day you can have a slip up. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I think we'll learn a lot over the next 4 games. And yeah, of course, we have to start somewhere, and we start against Man City that have back-to-back losses in the Premier League and Champions League with Liverpool and Man City. So it's going to be an incredibly difficult test, but I do think that we might have enough about us to get through this game.
Yeah, we should have enough players back and players off the bench to keep up that intensity, I hope. And also, I think hopefully we've learned some things from the way we played against City in the last couple of games, and use that as a bit of a blueprint to make sure that we're not getting opened up so much and we can really exploit them, because we've shown that when we play against Man City, they're a team who want to go toe-to-toe with us, and we can go toe-to-toe with them if they want, and we can exploit them as much as they come and try and beat us. And I think we just have to make sure we're defending right, making sure we're clogging up the spaces, making sure we're getting players behind the ball and not making it easy for Man City to create chances. If we do that, there's going to be chances for us, especially at home with the crowd on our side. I think, cheering us on, I think that can be a big help. If we look at the lineup, I think we think they might play. If you bring that on, Sammy, I think you look at that team, it's still a very good team. Still lots of quality there. They do have a few injury problems, but if Haaland doesn't play, Foden's not in the best form. The one thing I am worried about, though, is those wingers. I know they're not like the most effective wingers, but they're still, on their day, they can really take any fullback to the cleaners the way they play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, particularly with the way our fullbacks play as well, we always leave gaps in, behind our right back with him inverting into the central areas of the pitch. So I feel like if we're going to get a result in this game, we need to have a really rigid back 4, 2 players sitting in front and just counter the shit out of them, basically.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to play Rico or Kuzanov at right back.
Kuzanov is an interesting one, actually, because he struggled massively in his opening 20 minutes, half an hour of his debut. But I think since then he's really settled into the side.
He's gotten better. I still think he's had some struggles adjusting to where the positioning he needs to be in and things like that. I still think it's caught out, but I think he's looked a lot better than that shaky first 20 minutes he had against. Can't remember who was against Chelsea, where he was absolutely terrible in those first 20 minutes. It looks like he was going to be an absolute flop, but
in the
he
first
recovered.
5 minutes of his debut, he gave away a goal pretty much and got booking and made like a couple of fouls.
And also was sloppy passes, nearly costing them more goals. So I think, but he is very quick. So if they play him right back up against Son, or Son fancy his chances there, potentially, I think he'd much rather probably play Rico Lewis than play Kuzanov. But that's going to be interesting to see how that back line as well operates, and how, because they haven't been quite as coordinated this season, the back line, as they have been in previous years. I think it's probably more because they've been more exposed than in previous years, more than anything. But I think in the game in the Etihad when we played them, and with the game in the Carabao, I think they had good back lines in those games.
Know what? You talk about Doku and Savinho, exploiting us on the wings, But who else can exploit us is Gvardiol, because Gvardiol gets forward so much. He exploits space so much in that area of the pitch. And that's the area of the pitch where, a lot of teams exploit us. So I'm actually very worried about Gvardiol getting in goal scoring positions.
Well, if Decky starts, he's going to have to do his job. And he usually does when he faces Gvardiol. And actually, at the Etihad, he bullied Gvardiol, didn't he? A couple of times, which was great. But for sure, Gvardiol gets in all sorts of positions, and he's a massive, massive threat.
And Omar Mamouche, right, since coming in, I've really liked the look of him. I think he's a top player in the making. He's always on his bike, isn't he? Always looking to make that run. He's always on the move. Got a hat-trick against Newcastle with some brilliant finishing on show. I feel like if we play like a super high line, he's going to they're always going to be looking for him. They're going to find him time and time again.
Yeah, he's absolutely could be devastating, and I think he's got unbelievable pace. He's obviously joining a new club, and he's got that, like, he's running on adrenaline at the moment, having joined Man City, and he looks really, really bright early on. So I'm definitely worried about him. I mean, look, all those four players are all obviously unbelievable. Foden's obviously a lot better than he was the earlier season. He's still not quite at the best, but he's a lot better than he was. It'll be interesting to see what they go for, because I feel like, do they need a bit more steel in there? If they play that midfield three, do we have the opportunity to kind of overrun them in that middle? If they're playing Silva and Foden potentially, do they want to get a Kovacic in there? I think the midfield three they played at the Etihad when we played them, I remember it was like Gundogan, Bernardo. It was like a really unathletic midfield three, and that was real big away how we won them. We just cut through them in the middle. So I wonder if he's learned from that and he'll play a different kind of midfield three, or is he going to kind of persist with that? It'll be interesting to see.
Well, the midfield three that he played against Newcastle when they won 4-0 was Nico, Gundogan, and kind of Mamouche, but a bit further forward. If Haaland's not playing, obviously they can't do that. Mamouche is going to have to play as the number 9.
But they still got De Bruyne, they got Foden.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne was really poor last game, wasn't he? I feel like he's going to leave De Bruyne on the bench for this one.
I think this could be a good game for De Bruyne, though, in a weird way, if he plays him. But yeah, he really struggled against Liverpool. But Liverpool do have probably the most physical and athletic midfield three in the league, or one of. So it's no surprise that they really struggled. We have an athletic midfield three, but it's not the most, especially when Maddison plays. I mean, what he brings you off on the ball is obviously brilliant, but off the ball sometimes he can be bypassed. But when he's at his peak fitness, he's not a liability. But when he's off it a bit, sometimes he can be. So he's going to have to be at his absolute best as well.
What do you think about Man City, because on general, because at the beginning when their bad form started, everyone's like, oh, it's all down to Rodri. Do you feel like that's still the case? Is this all just down to Rodri, or do you think this Man City team needs a bit of a rebuild?
I definitely do think it needs a rebuild. When you win 4 in a row, and you sometimes, it's mentality and physicality, it just needs to be a refresh to go again. And it was always going to hit a buffer at some point. You can't just win every league forever, if without major refreshes. And that's what kind of Sir Alex Ferguson was amazing at, just always refreshing the squad, selling players when they needed to be sold, and buying new players at the right times. And I feel like at this point, Man City need to do the same. They need to just refresh the squad. I think people like Bernardo Silva, I think Gundogan to an extent probably needs to leave. Potentially De Bruyne, although I think he could still play a bit part role. But in terms of him being the main man, that can no longer be the case.
And De Bruyne's contract is up at the end of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe the end of next season. I think maybe you have another year left. I think some of the defenders, they need to...
No, it's this season.
It's this season. Stones, I think, might need to be sold or not relied upon. Maybe Ake's, getting on 30 at the moment. So Diaz as well. I do think they just need younger, fresher players to come into this team and reinvigorate them. And maybe hungry. Maybe they lost a bit of hunger. I think that's the case. When you've won all what they've won, it's hard to keep that hunger. It's like you've won everything. How much more hungry can you get? Like when you've been so consistent with your winning.
I thought that was going to be the case potentially after the treble, but they still came back and won another title.
Yeah, they did. They dragged themselves to another title, but I think that's because they kept themselves in the race. But this year they've just dropped out of it. I think at the beginning of the season they were looking brilliant though. I remember earlier before Rodri got injured, they were looking really good. and then Rodri got injured, and I think maybe he's like the player who maybe, I don't know, keeps the standards up on the pitch, and when he's not there, it kind of they just let it slip too much on top of the quality they're missing as well. I think it's again a myriad of issues. I think maybe some of these players are lacking hunger. I think a lot of them are lacking physicality as well with the ages, and I think they need a refresh. I think there's a few things, but I've got no doubt that first of all the signings in Jan will help them, and the fact that they will do what's required in the summer. I think Pepper's admitted, I think in the summer, that he maybe made a bit of a mistake not refreshing squad a bit more. He thought he could go again for one more season, and maybe it was a season too far. So I think he's admitted that at this point. So I think he won't make the same mistake again in the summer. I don't think this is going to be a thing where they're going to do like an Arsenal or United where they go years and years without a league. I think they're going to be right back in the race next year. But I think this season, obviously it's been a bad season, and they're going to have to learn a few lessons. But they're a smart team, Man City. I think they will learn the lessons, unlike maybe Man United, who just haven't learned the lessons since they last won the league.
Yeah, I feel like with Man City, I agree they need I don't think a rebuild is the right word. Probably a refresh is probably a better word for it, because I don't think they need a whole host of new players. Probably like just 2, 3, 4 players. And
they just need to lower the average age of the squad.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I mean, like 3 or 4 players out, 3 or 4 players in, and then I think that will just completely refresh them. And I do think they'll be, I agree, they'll be back in the title race next season. Maybe even the goalkeeper as well. There's talks about maybe going for the Porto keeper, I think it is.
Diogo Carlos, is it there? Not Carlos, Diogo.
Diogo, though, that's him, yeah.
Carlos Diogo, is that his name?
Carlos Diogo.
That's it, yeah. He's good. The Porto keeper.
Yeah.
Man City are very good with recruitment usually. They usually get it right, and Pep's usually really good at betting them in.
They rarely miss, do they?
They'll be all right. I'm sure they'll be all right. And even in this season, like, they've been bad, but they're still in the top 4, aren't they? That are currently speaking.
Diogo, that's it.
Costa Diogo. They'll be fine. I'm sure they'll be fine. I don't think this is going to be a long-term issue for them.
Yeah, but let's hope that we can kind of take advantage of the issues that they are going through at the moment. Obviously, we've been going through our own issues as well that are a lot worse than what Man City are going through. But I do think it's a game where we can take advantage of it and we can win the game. It's going to be under the lights at Tottenham. They never like to come here, and we've beaten them already twice this season. And hopefully we can take sample sizes of both those games and take it into this game and show where Man City can be caught out. So in terms of prediction, I'm going to go for a tight Spurs 2-1 win. And I feel like we will sit a bit deeper in this game, wait for our moments, and counter the shit out of them.
Yeah, I'm going to go 4-2. I'm going to go for lots of goals. I think Tottenham finally have some options in the front line where we can change it and refresh things, and that could help really exploit this City backline, which we know how to exploit over the last few times we played them. But I also think our backline at the moment, as much as Danso and Gray have done well, I still think Man City's a step up from that. And also, we are going to have to be a lot better than we have been over the last couple of games, despite the win. And I know we have won 3 in a row in the league, but performance-wise, it's still going to have to take it up a notch. But I also feel like when Man City come to town, we can really up our game. And I think we know that we've got a few more gears to go than what we've shown. And I think there have been signs that we're starting to click a bit in the last couple of games. We're not quite there, but hopefully in this game it can really start to click. And I'm backing it to do that in the front line. But defensively, I still think we're conceding a few too many chances. I think City will do that, but we'll maybe score. But I'm going 4-2. I'm going for goals, but I'm going for a Tottenham win.
That's probably bad omens, mate.
We've gone for a win. Well, yeah,
I think every time that we've beaten Man City, I think we've both gone for losses.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time we both go for losses in general, we usually win. That's how it works.
Well, I think we both went for losses when we lost to them at the back end of last season. So that was positive.
That's true.
But yeah, that is our match preview. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. It looks as that in this moment in time, me and Sim will be with you on the watch along tomorrow. So come and tune in for that. Was it 7:30 kickoff tomorrow? Or is it 8 o'clock kickoff?
7:30, yes. 1 sec.
Yeah, I think it is 7:30 kickoff.
Yeah, 7:30, yeah.
Come and tune in at 7:15 as we'll run through the team news and everything like that. But look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.